Just when we thought things couldn't get any worse, the worst recession in decades has brought some devastating news. With the confirmation of 10 significant layoffs for 2023, thousands of people are now facing the prospect of losing their jobs and struggling to make ends meet. Join us as we delve into this concerning development, examine the reasons behind these layoffs, and discuss what the future might hold for those affected by this economic downturn. Disney announced 7,000 job losses on February 9th as part of its corporate reorganization strategy to save $5.5 billion in expenses amid a wave of layoffs in various areas of the American labor market, notably in technology, finance, and media. The cutbacks, which will represent around 3.6% of its 220,000 worldwide employees, follow prior reductions by Netflix and Warner Bros. Discovery in 2022. The chief executive, Bob Iger, reportedly described the reorganization strategy to investors during Disney's first quarter earnings call, according to The Guardian. The most recent news adds to the 6% rise in job cutbacks generally projected in the United States in 2022, and Disney is now one of several big businesses that are turning to layoffs. Amazon, Google, Microsoft, and Meta are just a few of the technology companies that have been particularly badly struck by the recession. According to Layoffs.fyi, a website that analyzes job cutbacks throughout the sector, tech companies shed 159,786 employees last year. Another 98,100 workers have been let go by IT companies so far in 2023. Here is a list of top 10 layoffs which are confirmed for 2023. First, we have Amazon. Amazon CEO Andy Jassy said the business was eliminating 18,000 workers at the beginning of January, including layoffs from November. Less than 1% of the world's workforce would be affected, but only approximately 6% of corporate positions. At the time, the firm predicted it would remove 10,000 roles. According to sources from the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal, significant layoffs were first recommended in November. An unidentified insider in Amazon's Human Resources division reportedly told the New York Times that the amount of layoffs was subject to change once business plans were completed. The company's worldwide workforce increased dramatically as a result of the pandemic's success, rising from 798,000 in the fourth quarter of 2019 to 1.6 million by the end of 2021. Then, we have Microsoft. Microsoft disclosed intentions to cut 10,000 positions, or around 4.5% of its 220,000 worldwide employees, on January 18th. Satya Nadella, the chief executive officer of the software corporation, said in a blog post that the stagnant global economy had an impact on the $1.78 trillion market valuation of the software giant. Next, we will talk about Google. On January 20th, Google's parent firm Alphabet announced that it will eliminate 12,000 positions. The decision to delay a part of workers' January bonuses to be paid later in the year led to the largest ever layoffs at Google, which affected 6% of the company's worldwide workforce. Alphabet's CEO, Sundar Pichai, published a message on the company's website highlighting poor personal choices made in the previous 2 years that were made to meet times of tremendous growth. According to him, we employed people for a different economic reality than the one we now confront in order to match and drive that development. According to Pichai's message, domestic workers would also be entitled to a 6-month healthcare benefit and immigration assistance, in addition to a severance payment of 16 weeks of pay and 2 extra pay weeks for each year of service. Employees working outside of the United States will get help in accordance with local traditions. Next, we will talk about Beyond the Bed. Bed Bath & Beyond, a retail business, is severely impacted by the recession as it looks for buyers or financiers to stay afloat. The retailer said on January 18th that it will cut an extra $80 million to $100 million throughout the firm, including an undefined number of layoffs, in an effort to reduce expenses as a result of declining sales data. During the last 12 months, shares of the firm have decreased by more than 72%. Revenue decreased 33% from $1.88 billion the previous year to $1.26 billion for the 3 months ended November 26. Likewise, sales figures reported at establishments that had been open at least a year saw a 32% decline. In an effort to conserve money, the firm had earlier stated in September that it would shut 150 stores and lay off 20% of its workers. Moving forward, we have IBM. The sale and separation of 2 business areas was previously disclosed, and International Business Machines Corp., IBM, announced thousands of layoffs on January 25th. Chief Financial Officer James Kavanaugh said in an interview on Wednesday that the technology company provided a ballpark estimate of 3,900 job losses, or 1.5% of its staff. The divisions in question are Watson Health, IBM's healthcare analytics division, which is now being sold to an investment group, and Kyndryl, an IT infrastructure services company that formerly left IBM in November. The company is expected to lose $300 million as a result of the layoffs, although Kavanaugh assured that IBM would continue to employ in higher growth sectors. Next, we'll talk about Silverman Sachs. Apart from technology, Goldman Sachs said on Tuesday that it will invest $275 million in the 32,000 job layoffs that were previously announced in January. The bank's chief executive, David Solomon, stated that they were very brilliant employees and that we feel profoundly for the individuals who were touched by these cutbacks. After recording the same number of layoffs during the 2008 financial crisis, the announcement was the bank's greatest personnel cut. The Corporation of the Bank of New York Mellon is next on our list. According to a Reuters story from January 13th, the Bank of New York Mellon Corp., BK.N., intends to lay off around 3% of its personnel in the next year. The bank's stated total staff, which was 51,700 at the end of 2022, would be reduced by 1,500 positions. At the time of the announcement, firm shares increased by 2.4% as the financial services sector continues to be shaken by rising interest rates and inflation. Next, we will discuss Vimeo. At the beginning of the year, American video hosting service Vimeo also started a wave of layoffs. Anjali Sood, the company's CEO, said in a memo to colleagues that was subsequently circulated online that the layoffs will affect 11% of the workforce across several divisions, including sales and research and development. In their annual regulatory filing from December 2021, Vimeo listed 1,219 employees. In the third quarter of 2022, Vimeo earned $108.1 million and had around 1.6 million paying customers. In order to help Vimeo become a more focused and profitable business that operates with the required discipline in a volatile economic climate, Sood said the move was the correct thing to do. Up next, we have BlackRock. BlackRock Inc., the biggest asset management firm in the world, said in a statement on January 11th that a $91 million reorganization would result in the elimination of 500 employees worldwide by the end of 2022. Full-year sales for the previous year decreased by 8% to $17.9 billion, while profits per share decreased by 16% to $8.93. The company shares also saw its worst decline since the 2008 financial crisis. As of September 30th, BlackRock employed 19,900 people, according to a report submitted to the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. Less than 3% of workers will be laid off, according to Reuters. Lastly, we will talk about Philips. On January 30th, Philips said that it will be eliminating 6,000 positions, or about 8% of its worldwide workforce, which would total around 77,000 workers by the end of 2022. Severance and termination-related expenses will total $326 million, or 300 million euros, for the affected employees. In the previous year, the Netherlands health technology company announced 4,000 job cutbacks. Since the firm recalled sleep apnea equipment in June 2021, the share price of the business has decreased by over 65%. According to Chief Executive Officer Roy Jacobs in an interview with Bloomberg Television, that's a substantial and impactful step, but we feel it essential to manage the growing costs throughout the firm and the globe, as well as to make us more nimble. He stated that half of the employee reductions will take effect this year and that part of the cutbacks will be made in the Netherlands. With the recall of defective products comes a number of damage claims against Philips. Researchers found a correlation between cancer and respiratory problems when silicone foam used in ventilators was utilized. Thus, they awarded 885 million euros, $962 million in funding. The corporation announced an 85 million euro increase in these contingencies. Will this policy of laying off employees become a permanent one? Van Reenen, the Ronald Coase School professor at London School of Economics, has not lost optimism that the worrying rise in employment losses across these industries would only be transitory, despite the fact that the increase is frightening. In contrast to our forecasts, the economy of the United States has shown to be surprisingly robust. According to him, the labor markets have held up quite well, and inflation is falling considerably more quickly in the United States than it is in Europe. However, stability is still in question as a result of global factors, according to him. He cites the ongoing conflict in Ukraine and China's influence over the supply chain as examples, particularly in the light of the fact that the country is dealing with an increasing number of COVID-19 cases and a lack of medication. We hope that this video has given you some insight into the challenges that many people are facing in today's job market. While these layoffs are undoubtedly worrying, it's important to remember that there's always hope for a better future. Thank you for watching, and please share this video to help raise awareness of this important issue.